I'm Mikaela Fowler. I'm a national finalist from Victoria for Miss Grand Australia, and this is my interview with the Pageant Project.
Hi everyone, it's Adrian from the Pageant Project with you, and my special guest for today is a returning familiar face, Mikaela Rose Fowler over in Victoria. Mikaela, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Adrian. Thanks for having me on again. How are you
It's a
doing?
pleasure. I'm doing well. Now, first things first, did you notice the earthquake?
Yes, I did actually. I woke my boyfriend up. He didn't believe me. By the time he woke up, it was over. But I did feel
Okay.
it. Yeah.
This is the second earth. I remember interviewing Ella Rose Denton when she was competing in Miss World Australia, and I think you guys had an earthquake during COVID, didn't you? So this is like the second one in like 2 years.
Yeah, that one. This was only, I think, 3.8 on the, I
Yeah,
think they call it Richter scale or whatnot.
yeah.
The other one was above 6, I believe, from memory. And
Okay,
that one lasted a little bit longer. So, and that one,
okay.
I think, took down a building in Melbourne, in the city.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mm.
So, what's happening with Victoria? What should we read into this? The fact that there's been this many earthquakes in in 2 years. I think Ella said it's like the rest of Australia is trying to shake Victoria loose. What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, well, Melbourne is quite often the most livable city. So maybe Sydney has it in
Uh,
for us, perhaps trying to take back that title.
Hey, I think Sydney recently got voted like the most livable city in the world or something. So we're hanging on that. Yeah, and
There we go. I need
a
to
lot of the
keep up
Sydney
to date.
siders decided to share that with their Melburnian brethren. Um, but just to begin, we're not going to assume that everyone is familiar with your pageant history. So why don't you give us a brief rundown of your pageant history, as brief as it can be, given how storied your pageant history is. But take us back to the beginning and all the way up to now, where you are a Miss Grand Australia national finalist, and good luck remembering it all.
Well, Adrian, we need to go back 10 years. So this is my 10th year in pageantry. So I'm very proud to be a I guess I like to call it a comeback queen. So I'm back. I just keep coming back. But it started long, long time ago. I was fresh out of high school, and a friend of mine was running or she brought back a local small town pageant called Miss Western Port. Um, I didn't really think that that was my thing. I didn't think I'd enjoy it, but she kept sort of saying, come join. It's really fun. You'll get to meet a lot of girls. You'll get to network in the community and do some really fun stuff. So why not? I gave it a crack. I ended up winning. Yay. And basically, it all just snowballed from there. I went to Miss Galaxy where I placed top 10. I've also placed second runner up for Miss Galaxy. And then after that, I competed internationally twice with the Miss Intercontinental Australia crown, and then again with the Miss Global Australia crown, where I then placed in the Royal Court, so which is the top 5 internationally. And now I'm back.
What brings you back? I mean, that's a lot as it is. That would be enough for most people. And obviously, as you know, I don't need to tell you, pageantry is neither cheap nor is it quick and done in one day. It's the opposite of both of those things. So, what made you decide to come on back? It's not like you have an abundance of free time, I'm assuming, and you had nothing else to do.
No, it's definitely not been yeah, just something to fill the time, that's for sure. It's I guess it's kind of addictive. Once the glitter's in your blood, I like to say it kind of sticks. It's hard, you can't get rid of glitter. If you've ever tried to get a bit of glitter off your skin or something like that, you just can't get it. So
Yeah,
I
like
think
when
pageantry
I
kind
hug
of
one of you in pageant land and you guys get glitter on me, I can't get it off. So yes.
yeah, it is hell. But so yes, there is the glitz and the glam, which I absolutely love and adore. I love being on stage, but I think I can't remember who I heard say this, but it has stuck with me for the last couple of years. She said, I have to remember so I can actually quote her name properly. But she said, pageantry, it's like cooking pancakes. Your first one is always crap. So, well, not crap, but you usually chuck the first one out, and they get better with practice. So as you cook
Okay.
more, they get better. As is, I guess myself in pageantry, every time I think I get better and better and better. And I think I have managed to find more and more purpose within the industry, and my voice has gotten clearer and louder as I actually establish that for myself.
Why don't you? I mean, the question I've been dying to ask you is what your sort of personal journey has been like basically since we last interviewed. So, probably the last 2 or 3 years. If I take you back to maybe pre pandemic, if you can remember such a thing, around about 2019, you competed. Around about that time, Miss Global, you did very well, obviously, at Miss Global, placed in the Royal Court. And at that time, I believe you're working in the real estate industry. And fast forward to now, you've switched industries. You're working in a very different field, from what I can tell, and you're back. So in pageantry. So can you just trace for me the journey that you've been through over the last 2 or 3 years? Because it's not like, hey, it's same old, same old. You seem to have taken quite a big shift, made quite a big shift.
Yeah, a lot has changed. I think a lot changed for all of us over the last
Yeah.
few years. For me personally, I actually went through an ADHD diagnosis. So I am clinically diagnosed with ADHD. That was a really, really big journey of self discovery for me over the last couple of years. It hasn't been necessarily a straightforward or an easy one. A lot of the time, it's been quite a lonely one. And that's actually what sort of pushed me to explore other avenues career wise. I
Mhm.
felt that the typical office life just wasn't quite working for me. And I wanted to be able to help others who were potentially going through what I went through, or I am still going through.
Yeah.
Um, and I wanted to find like-minded people. So I actually became, or I'm now a disability support worker. So a lot of the participants that I work with, they have a number of different disabilities or mental health issues that they are working through and living with at the moment. So I get to help them on their journey of self-discovery as well, which is really, it's actually quite fun. We have a lot of fun together. A lot of people think it's quite a dark and gloomy kind of industry
Mm.
to be in, but it's quite the opposite, because all we're focused on day to day is how can we live our lives better? How can I help this person be a better, be more true to themselves and help them find themselves? How can I help them better their everyday life? So it's yeah, it's really nice not to feel so lonely in that journey myself now as well.
How did the whole journey start? I mean, obviously, we don't tend to see mental health professionals on a regular basis. It's not like a doctor or dentist. You go, have your annual checkup, and you got diagnosed. So, was there any particular reason that led you to thinking there might be something that you have to deal with?
Yeah, it was through a lot of lockdown. I guess we were kind of all confined to these spaces and
Yeah.
really forced to face ourselves and our inner dialogue. And when everything else was stripped away, I started seeing all of these different um thought patterns and processes and habits, and I got I went down quite a dark rabbit hole, I guess you could call it, with my mental health. And I
Mm.
went to my GP and I basically said, I need help. It was tough to do that and admit that, but I did in the end. And I'm really, really glad that I did, because I just don't know, um, where I'd be now if I hadn't have done that. And then it just went to psychologists, and then a referral to a psychiatrist as well, because it is only diagnosable by a psychiatrist. um, and yeah, it was just a really, really, it was a hard sort of journey to go through, because I didn't have any, or I don't have anyone in my personal world and my life who's been through something like this or who knew the process or understood any of it really. So I was I just kind of had to find my way on my own. So and that's why I love what I'm doing now, because I'm helping people find the way and they don't
Mm.
have to do it alone like I did.
When you got the diagnosis,
Mm.
what was your immediate response to it? I mean, I have to imagine it might partly be relief that there's something diagnosable that now you can work on it, but at the same time, it's not the best news in the world to get. So, what was your reaction when you got the diagnosis?
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. It was bittersweet. I
Mm,
felt um, a little bit, I guess, what's the word for it? I just started to wonder what could have been throughout my schooling and growing up and all of that sort of thing if I
right.
had have had the support that I obviously needed. So there was that sort of, oh yeah, it's a really funny feeling to feel that way, and so that kind of hurts. I guess it's a bit of conflict within myself that I need
Mm,
to accept and move forward from, and I actually look at it and be like, hey, you know what? Look what I achieved. I have a bachelor's degree. I have multiple national titles and international titles for beauty pageants, and I
yeah.
have wonderful relationships and friendships. It's, and you did that without the support that you needed. So give
Yeah.
yourself a break. I think you've probably found that a lot of girls or a lot of people in the pageant industry, they tend to be very, very hard on themselves. So,
Mm. Just
yeah.
slightly.
So it's kind of reeling that in and being like, no, look what you've done. Look back, be proud of yourself, and yeah, embrace those achievements. Don't, think of what could have been or anything
Mm,
like that. But yeah, there was a definitely a level of relief as well, because
yeah.
I felt like, okay, there is a community out there that understands me. My brain does function differently. It is scientifically proven. There is, it's not
Mhm. Made up.
it's not made up. It's not something that I'm making up in my head or anything like that. It's real. It's a neurobiological, I don't know all the technical terms behind it, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's real, and it's not going to be fixed overnight. In fact, you can't fix it. You can work with it and improve it, but you can't fix it. And so then there's that sort of, I guess that's a little bit of a bitter pill, yeah, bit of a pill to
Yeah.
swallow, that one as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's an odd
It's
journey.
let me ask you this because I last night I interviewed Miss World Gibraltar, and for example, she has struggled with anxiety. Your good
Mhm.
friend Alicia, my good friend Alicia van Schoonhoven, had very bad panic attacks to the point where she had to lock herself in a room. So that's anxiety. I'm just talking about mental health conditions that people often don't understand unless they've been through it. I've had depression, suicidal thoughts. And, with depression, people will tell you, walk it off. And with anxiety, people will tell you, don't worry about it. Well, what are you anxious about? With ADHD, from my experiences, a lot of it has been like, just concentrate. That seems to be the stereotype around ADHD, is that you can't sit still. You've probably eaten too much sugar or had too much coffee. Just sit still, concentrate, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. There's nothing wrong with you. What has it? Because I think it's really important that we address that not only the stigma but the stereotype that's wrong. Because I don't think unless you've lived with it, you can really appreciate and understand how difficult it can make your life. Now, as you pointed out rightly, you've achieved a lot despite it. But what is it like for someone who doesn't know, or someone watching this who might have it and doesn't know, but has an inkling their brain might work a little bit differently to everyone else's? What is it like to have, as best as you can explain, because obviously it's individual,
Yeah.
to have
Yes, I was about to say that.
ADHD? Yeah,
It is very different and unique for everyone. So this is obviously just my personal
yeah,
experience. I have what you call, so there's a few different types of ADHD. So you've got the
right,
hyperactive, and then you've also got the inattentive. So where I I have inattentive ADHD. So what that means is that while I might not be super hyperactive, a lot of mine is actually internalized rather than externalized with that
Right.
physical movement. So I, struggle with things like time management, and organization. And it's not through, not caring about time or anything like that. It's actually called time blindness.
Mhm.
So not actually being able to understand or perceive time in a linear type of way as a neurotypical kind of brain would.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, so there's lots of those types of things. I really struggle with prioritizing and actually understanding what goes where on the list. If I sit down and I look at the list, it makes sense. But if I'm on
Mhm.
the fly along the day and I'm just trying to think of, okay, do I go get lunch first? Do I go do this first? Prioritizing that and organizing the day can be really, really difficult. I need things to be very, very visual.
Yeah.
And going to, what you said with people saying, oh, just get over it or just don't worry about it with, anxiety or
Yeah.
depression and things like that. With ADHD, the one that I constantly come up against is, oh, just use an organizer. Just do it. Just get it done. And it's like, you're not actually understanding that the way that the dopamine and the dopamine receptors work in my brain, to go from, hey, I want to do this task, to
Mm.
actually executing the task is incredibly difficult. The way that they explain it sometimes, especially to children, is it's like there's a little bit of a wall in your brain. And these guys over here, they want to do it and they go, hey, let's do this. Like, this would be so helpful. This is going to help you achieve your goal. And the other guys are over here going, yeah, we'll execute it. Just chuck us the ball. But the wall's there and they can't chuck them the ball to get it done. And that's what it's like in the brain. And so what do? You often go into freeze mode, or what is typically called procrastination. Um, it's hard because a lot of these issues, everyday people, neurotypical people can have these issues,
We'll have
struggle
them.
with
Yeah.
these things as well.
Yeah.
But the difference is that for someone who is neurodivergent, this is an everyday, every second battle. It's not just, oh, today I'm a bit scattered. It's every day.
Mm. It reminds me a little bit of the research that is, I don't know how recent it is, but regarding addiction. And very often people would say, oh, just stop doing it. And if you don't stop doing it, that's just because you don't have enough willpower. And then I think
Mm.
they recently showed that no, there's actually something fundamentally different in the brain. And I think it did come down to dopamine and dopamine receptors and how powerful they are in influencing every second of your day, not just every decision you make, but every second of your day. Um, but I mean, for yourself, Michaela, it's not like you haven't done anything, as you've pointed out already. People go, "Oh, you procrastinate, so you haven't done anything." You've achieved a lot despite of this. Okay, so before you didn't know about it, you didn't have the diagnosis, but you still managed to achieve a lot. So what have you learnt about yourself through this journey? I mean, you achieved so much, you got the diagnosis, you were in a different career. So what have the learnings been for you throughout the diagnosis to now?
That's a really good question. It's it has been a process of building my toolkit. I like to explain it as one thing might be as simple as it's sticky notes. It's leaving sticky notes around for myself because I know that a reminder on my phone, I can just swipe that away and then I forget about it. But a sticky
Yeah.
note's always there. It's learning these little skills, which might sound so simple, and then also putting in there the heavier, more complex skills as well. Realigning those internal dialogues and things like that, which it's really, really hard to do when something that comes along often with ADHD is being incredibly hard on yourself, and your inner critic is very, very loud, and also tending to be, a people pleaser, and not wanting to
Mhm.
let people down, and all of those sort of things. And yeah, also a bit of, I think it's called rejection sensitivity um, disorder type thing as well gets thrown in there. And so rerouting those thoughts about myself is one of the main things I try to focus on the most. And that's probably the bulk of my toolbox. But then I throw all
Yeah.
these other little things in there. But the thing with ADHD is, you know what we do? We accidentally leave the toolbox behind every now and then. So I I it's sometimes needing to leave a sticky note to remember the toolbox, and that's where it can kind of compound. Yeah, but this is the thing is I like that I'm able to sit here and laugh about it with you and not be so hard on myself and go, hey, you know what? I have ADHD. This happens. Like, let's
Mm.
just move forward. Let's work with it. I'm working on it. Like, I'll get better next time. I won't forget it tomorrow. But remembering that it's okay if sometimes you forget your toolbox. It's okay if you're not perfect every day. And actually, you don't have to be perfect any day.
Of course.
But yeah, just not being so hard on yourself and accepting that it's okay if you leave the box behind. Pick it up tomorrow. We'll be fine. The world's still going to go around.
Yeah. Did you, again, the stereotype with ADHD, I've worked with students, and ADHD unfortunately was used by some parents who to excuse their child's, let's say, poor behavior. Now, some of them may have had ADHD, some of them it was just kids being kids, right? When you got your diagnosis, did it explain to you any of the difficulties you might have had growing up or going through study? Because I feel that that's, again, the most common thing people will think of is someone with ADHD, they can't sit still, so they can't study. So the studying is going to be difficult. But again, you've completed a bachelor's degree and so you finished high school. So that's a lot further than a lot of people go. But did you have any particular struggles with studying that when you got the diagnosis, you went, ah, that's why?
Yeah, so I'm lucky that I naturally get things because actually implementing a strategy to study was very difficult. Once I left the confines of a high school structure, and
Yeah.
here in Australia, you go to university and you're left to your own devices. They don't
Yep.
care if you show up to class or not. It's just a fail. Like that you don't submit your assessment, no one's going to chase you for it like they do in high
Mm.
school. It's just a fail. Which is very different to over in the US, which I actually experienced when I studied over there. So yeah, here in Australia, it is quite tough. So that was really, really difficult to go for. I was already struggling to get my homework done for year 12.
Right.
I was just lucky that I did just get some things. I managed to really listen well in class,
Hmm.
even if I hadn't read the book or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, I was a good note taker. So, I'm sometimes regurgitated things out into an essay, but, it's something the teacher said. So therefore it was correct and they couldn't mark me wrong. So
Yeah.
there was some little techniques that I had now that I look back and I go, oh, that's what I was doing.
Right.
Um, I was a really big daydreamer in oh gosh, especially in my earlier days of high school. Daydreaming was a really tough one. So I might not have been fidgeting or, running around the classroom like, the typical ADHD child. I was just off with the fairies and
Hmm.
daydreaming, but no one really knew. But the other thing is, I actually liked school. So therefore, it's easier to focus when you have ADHD because ADHD isn't an issue with being able to focus. It's it's a difference between being able to focus on things that you do and don't like because of
Mm.
that dopamine that you may or may not be getting during that task. So if you like school, you're probably going to be able to focus it on it a lot better because you've got the dopamine hit because it's something that you find pleasure and enjoyment in. So I was quite lucky in that regard. But if I didn't like school, I don't know how that would have gone.
It would have, yeah, it would have been completely different.
Yeah.
Um, Tell me more about the work you do. So you're a disability support worker.
Yeah.
Um, I have no idea what like that is, what that's like on a daily basis. Like, what does your daily routine look like? And as much as you could have one. And the other question I have is, how do you find it personally, fulfillment wise? compared to your previous career in real estate?
Yeah, so routine's probably a strong word for, for in this career path, because every day does look a little bit different. Some of the participants that you work with, depending on their diagnosis, they probably really thrive on having that routine, or they actually
Yeah,
probably need it.
yeah,
But some other ones, it's out the door. They want something new, they want something different. So for me, I've got a myriad of participants. Obviously, I won't go into their personal
of
details,
course.
but yeah, I'm working with across the board. We've got intellectual disability, we've got personality, borderline personality disorder, we've got ADHD, we've got autism, we've got just an absolute myriad of diagnoses, and so every single participant, even if they've got the same diagnosis as someone else, their needs, their
Yeah,
goals, their dreams, um, their behaviors, everything is so different. And for me, I'm quite lucky. The way that the company Skilled Carer that I work for, the way that they work is they're focused on pairing a participant with a support who really get along and they get each
right.
other. So majority of my participants are female, um, and they like similar things to me, so I can really guide them in those sort of avenues. Like maybe they really like arts and crafts or cooking, or they want to get their fitness and their health in check, and I can help with those sort of things. But for some of them it's just companionship. For some of them, I'm going into their home, I'm helping them, look at their budget and their cleaning and this and that, and help, and basically taking my toolbox in and saying, hey, how can we build your toolbox? Like, let's have a look at that. And yeah, so I've got about 6 participants that I work with regularly every single week. And then on top of that, I might do some, days out and things like that with
Yeah,
some groups, or we do school camps and holidays. And so we take away maybe 5 or 6 participants at once, a couple of support workers. That gives respite to the carers and the supports back at
yeah,
home as well. And yeah, it's every day's different. You got to be on, thinking one step ahead of how can I, um, you know, make this task more interesting for this person who might struggle with it, or, what's this person going to need? How can I build my relationship with this person so they trust me, so that if I
yeah.
suggest something, they'll go for it. So, yeah.
That sounds quite different to real estate.
Yeah, it is very different. Although something that we were often learning in real estate is how to communicate with people, and
Mm,
how to use those different modes of persuasion and things like that. And there was a level of psychological thinking as
yeah,
well, and tailoring your a client's experience and things like that. And so it is quite similar with the participant, although you're not selling anything to them, or maybe you're selling ideas and things like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's still, okay, how can I communicate to this person? How are they going to receive it? And how can I guess be, like I was in real estate, I have to now be a bit of a chameleon.
yeah.
So I guess there's a bit of an overlap there.
Well, I mean, yeah, good communication skills are probably going to help you in any job. And I do I mean, you're not really selling anything now, but even selling someone to take up an idea or to try a change, that sometimes can be more difficult personally than the decision to buy a house. I mean, a house, I mean, someone's looking for a house, they want to buy one. So in that sense, it's easier. But if you're speaking with someone on a very personal level and you're trying to convince them to, hey, try something that they might be very uncomfortable with, then those the selling or the persuasion, I guess, to be more accurate, as you said, those techniques would certainly have come in handy. Do you
Mm.
miss the real estate at all, or is that completely in the past? I mean, it seems like a quite a different sort of job, more long-term relationship building than real estate, as an example.
Yes and no. I mean, I was in real estate for about 7 years, And there were
Yeah.
some relationships that I, built quite early on, and they've still got my business card or my phone number. And I actually got a call the other day from a older gentleman who, him and his elderly wife, they needed to sell their house, and they had
Oh,
my,
yeah.
um, yeah, on the fridge, and they really, connected well with me. I sat and had coffee with them, and appraised their home. So that was what, 3 years ago or something. It was pre-COVID, and
Wow.
so
Okay.
now they've called me and said, "Oh, hey, we want to sell. Look, can we? Are you still working?" I said, "Unfortunately, no, but I've got some, great
Yeah.
people to refer you to." But it's funny how people think that real estate's very short term, but you really, if,
Mm.
if you're trying to build your name and your presence, it is actually building long term relationships that you have to work at. And that also has translated over to support care as well. And
Yeah.
we said we're not selling anything, but in some ways, in real estate, the biggest thing you sell, if you're selling, is yourself.
Yeah. Yep.
In pageantry, what's the biggest thing we're selling? Ourselves. In support work, when I get there, when I first meet them, one of the first things I've got to do is create that relationship, that connection, and sell myself. So I think it kind of comes into majority of the avenues that I've been in,
Yeah.
and probably most avenues of life, to be quite honest, that ability to sell yourself.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it even comes into our personal life, doesn't it? If you're going to enter a relationship with someone or you're going on a date, you do need to, I mean, selling yourself is probably not the best turn of phrase to use on a date, but you do. I mean, if you don't put your best foot forward, then, the date's probably not going to go very well. But I'm curious, when did Miss Grand Australia come into this? So obviously, it sounds like life, at least for a period of time, was in flux for yourself. A lot of things changing,
Mm.
um, and then at some point you decided to enter Miss Grand Australia. I don't think, by the way, you have anything left to prove. Obviously, you've done very well for yourself and for Australia. So, at what point did Miss Grand Australia come across your mind, and you went, "Yeah, let's do it"?
For starters, thank you. I appreciate that you don't think that I have anything else to prove. But and to be quite honest, I'm probably not trying to prove anything to anyone else. I'm trying to prove it to myself.
Good,
Um, yeah, which, you know
good.
what, if you're ever trying to prove it to someone else in pageantry, you never do as well. It's
Mm,
when you really commit to being the best you for you in pageantry that you have the opportunity to likely walk away with the crown, or if not, you walk away with the best experience anyway. But back to your question. uh Gosh, when did Amber get crowned Miss Grand Australia? That was probably June, July
around
last year.
about 10 months ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was before she was crowned that I started thinking, okay, I think I really want to do Miss Grand. I want to go for a Grand Slam. I want to go for one of the I know that I have competed on some really big international stages, but I want to go that next step. And I feel
Mhm.
like I've kind of been, in a way, saving the best for last, and building up my experience along the way to really just go bam and make a grand entrance, I guess you could say.
Okay.
um, so yeah, I did think I was retired. Like, I think I tell you that every year. No, I'm done. I'm retired, and then I just sort of keep
I
coming back.
don't believe you at this point anymore. And it's not just you, to be fair. I don't believe anyone when they tell me they're done. I like,
Yeah.
you're done for now. We'll revisit
Yes.
this conversation when you decide to undo that decision.
Yeah. I I think I also came to terms with the fact that I had aged out, and then a few of the pageant systems, like the bigger systems, started increasing their age limit, and I was like, "Oh, they're pulling me back in."
It's a
So,
sign.
yeah. I but yeah, I also felt that with what I've been through with my diagnosis and the different line of work that I'm in now, I feel as though my advocacy and all of that sort of thing has really, really changed. And what I want to talk about, it's not that I didn't have purpose previously, but I think this time I have something that I really, really want to talk about and I really want to advocate for. I don't think I've had anything previously that I've been this passionate about. So that was kind of what pushed me to be like, okay, you got to give at least just one more crack. You've got to go.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear to me, even remembering back to our previous conversations, that you are very passionate about your advocacy this time around. And I think rightly so. I mean, there's no substitute for lived experience. I mean, you can hear about someone else's story and advocate for them as far as you can. But when something you've lived through it and it's obviously as personal to you as it is, then I think that's a whole different kettle of fish. I mean, I got to ask you, you've done pageants so many times, you've done prep so many times. At this stage, pageant prep for you, is it a lot of people get really nervous and worked up about it and all over the place? At this stage in your pageant career, is it a bit more settled, or do you still get the nerves, the butterflies, the temper tantrums when things occasionally don't arrive, or things go wrong, or things don't fit? I'm asking the pageant veteran in you. After 10 years, Mikaela, does it get any easier?
I don't know about the word easier. No,
Give me.
in some ways yes, in some ways no. So what has been easier this time around is the connections that I've built with sponsors, designers, things like that. So that is a lot smoother and easier with the gowns I'm having designed and things like that. But there's something about coming back from a previous title. There's almost like a level of expectation that you probably have for yourself and
Yeah.
also that you feel others might have as well. So there is that little bit of added pressure being a comeback queen. So I think in that way, I do have to keep pulling myself back and being like, it's okay. You're doing this for yourself. It doesn't matter if whatever happens, happens. It's all okay. But then, yes, actually, you know what? This is probably the hardest and the longest I've ever trained for a pageant, actually. So I do have regular space booked for walking and posing. I've got multiple coaches that I'm working with, doing question and answer and this, that, and the other. And it's probably, yeah, the hardest I've worked for a competition in a long time. Not saying I didn't work hard before, but I think when I didn't show up exactly how I wanted to previously. And what's that saying? What's that saying? They say, don't expect the outcome to change if you use the same process or something like that. I can't remember the exact quote, but that's sort of what I thought about. I was like, okay, we can't just go into this doing exactly what we did last time or the time before that, because we know what the result was from that.
Yeah.
What's going to change?
It sounds like that quote, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing again and again and expect a
Yes.
different result.
Thank you.
Um,
That's the one I was trying to
that
get
one,
to. Yeah.
that's what it reminded me of. When not everyone, particularly in Australia, I feel, because pageantry obviously is not as big here as it is in some other countries.
Mm.
When they hear pageant prep and working hard, they actually don't really know what that means. So, in terms of your pageant prep, obviously people think about going to the gym, eating right, a bit of interview prep. Okay, got that. But when she says, working really hard, what does that mean? So, in terms of your preparation, what is it? Is it like on a weekly basis you're working towards this and you're doing something pretty much week in, week out?
Yeah, it's probably day in, day out, to be quite honest. It's if I'm not in the gym and, as you said, meal prepping and focusing on my overall physical health and my mental health. I'm still seeing, regularly, fortnightly or every 3 weeks, I'm seeing a psychologist, and that's not just to work on my ADHD, but we're talking about the winner's mindset. We're
Yeah.
talking about that, the headspace that I need to be in. So there's the mental prep as well. Then there's, yes, the question and answer, wardrobe preparations and styling and things like that. You know, we all of our sponsors are now coming on board. We're getting sent a lot of different products. So you're going to be seeing a lot more social media content promoting our wonderful sponsors and things like that. Um, and a lot of that, you know, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort. We
Mm,
do live in a digital age, so a lot of your preparation is also to do with building that social presence, that online presence, and your brand, along with obviously. I've got a few things coming out soon to do
okay.
with my platform and my advocacy and some fundraising things as well. So there's a lot that goes in, and pageantry is always, it's what you make of it. So if you want to
Mm.
make it into something that you're working on all the time, every day, you know, really hustling for it, you can. If that's not really how you want to go about it, you have a full-time job, it's not crucial to have to do that. You can still work it around your job like I have the previous years. So yeah.
What was the response like when you announced that you were going to have a run at Miss Grand Australia? And I asked that so sort of from the general public, but then also the pageant people, the pageant connections that you know. But then also, I'm just thinking, your poor family. I wonder if they're going, "Oh my God, not again." So, what was the overall response like from different groups of people in your life?
It was a lot more positive than I was expecting. I thought a lot of people would sort
That's
of
good.
be, you know, the eye roll, like, oh, here we go again. All right, what you doing now? Which one's this?
Yeah,
But it's been really, really positive. I mean, you've probably experienced, for the most part, the pageant community itself is incredibly supportive,
mm,
and especially overseas, they get really, really excited in other countries about queens and pageant girls who are coming back. They tend
yeah,
to, you know, they're a fan of someone, and then they see
yeah.
them going again for it. They're like, yes. So I've got a few international fans that are still there cheering on, which is really nice. My parents, there was a little bit of shock there for a minute because they did think it was done. But then dad was like, he's like, okay, so which country do we get to travel to next?
He's thinking ahead.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, well, actually, this one's in Melbourne, so we won't be going interstate, but hopefully, maybe we'll be in Vietnam at the end of the year. So, yeah, they get quite excited about the travel, so they're pretty happy about it.
Um, are you still working with your sister? I remember from last time that we talked. I think she was sponsoring you. I think was it Saya Medispa? Are you still working in tandem with her?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm always making the most of having a sister who owns a medi
I,
spa.
w- I
Who
was going to
wouldn't?
say it's kind of
Yeah.
an unfair advantage, but okay.
Yes. So in some ways, yes. So a lot of my skin preparation, that is, we're going into basically, I call it my skin boot camp leading up to pageantry. So that'll be a lot of facials, LED treatments, all of that sort of thing. That I also pop in and use the infrared sauna on a.
We got you back. What happened
Yes,
there?
I'm so sorry about that. I had a technical difficulty. My phone overheated. So
We
it's
broke the internet. Congratulations. Too hot for the phone. I don't think that's ever
oh
happened
god.
before.
Yeah, I don't know if it was the light or it just, yeah, it I took the case off it and I've popped it on the charger as well. So hopefully it holds out for the next few minutes. But welcome to my kitchen.
Uh, well, I mean, we were going towards a close anyway. You were just telling us about how you were working with your sister. And I was getting jealous about this idea of an infrared sauna. Uh, but
So good.
just
So good.
before we go to the close, speaking of sponsors, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to for supporting you along your journey?
Yeah, well, definitely my sister at Sayamedi Spa. She has helped me get over the years with my skincare, which everyone would know. It's your blank canvas. It's the most important thing, as it, you know, just anyone, let alone a beauty queen. But also one of our main partners for Miss Grand Australia, Di Lorenzo Hair Care. So really, really excited to be working with them. You'll see some content come out shortly. And another long-term sponsor of mine or partner of mine is Straight to Heaven. They do all of my hair extensions and my in-salon hair treatments and cut and colour and all that sort of thing. So I'll be working quite closely with them again for the upcoming pageant. So yeah, really excited.
When is the actual pageant? Is it in August?
So we start on the 12th of July.
12th of July. Okay.
Yes, here in Melbourne.
Yeah, that's a change of state. Well, I mean, yeah, if you could organise that, get your stuff together, that'd be appreciated. I mean, so it's about a month out, give or take, month and a half. How are you feeling at this stage? Have the nerves kicked in, or it's just excitement?
It's a bit of an emotional roller coaster. Every now and then the nerves do get to me, and I have one of those moments where I just have to realign my thinking again. There's some really, really strong contestants, and it's hard to not let that get into your head. But when I'm just focusing on myself, I'm feeling pretty calm and really confident.
Very good. All right, let's zip through this final 10. It'll be the third time for you. I haven't changed these questions at all. But let's try and zip through them before you overheat your phone again. So, Question 1, what is your favorite word?
Oh my gosh, I should have prepared for these questions. Favorite word?
Good practice.
I don't know why, but the word fruition, I really love using that word, and I always think about it as I tend to put it in a lot of my pageant bios about, my dreams coming to fruition or my goals coming to fruition. I don't know why. It just seems to stick with me, that word.
Well, that's bangs her head on. Please try not to knock yourself out. Number 2, what is your least favorite word?
Regret. I don't want to regret anything.
Number 3, in life, what gets you excited? What turns you on?
Other than coffee.
Agreed.
Yeah. Probably my little niece, Anastasia. If I'm ever having a bad day, I just hear her little voice and I just think, God, that's what we're doing, life for. These little beings who rely on us that just are full of joy.
So that's what turns you on. Question 4, what turns you off?
What turns me off? That's a really difficult one. What don't I like at the moment? What's really annoying me at the moment?
It's good if you actually
other
have to
than
think
chocolate
about it.
in the fridge.
I remember
We've
that.
been through that one before. I hate chocolate in the fridge. My dad has actually started hiding his chocolate in the fridge because he knows then I won't eat it. He's tried to teach my boyfriend that one as well. So he's like, if you don't want Mikaela to eat your chocolate, just put it in the fridge.
Does it work? Does it work can't you just take it out of the fridge, wait for it to warm up and then eat it?
Yeah, but when you've got that hankering for chocolate and you just want it there and then?
No.
I mean, I have probably popped it in the microwave a few times.
Frozen and then oh God, that's not chocolate anymore. I don't know what that is. Is that it? Final answer? Chocolate in freezer. We can leave that as a final one. I do remember that from last time.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a pet peeve.
Okay, let's move on. Number 5, what sound or noise do you love?
Australian birds. Okay, so you're then going to ask what noise do I hate, right?
Yes, that would be number 6.
Yes, because I love the sounds of all of. I live on a bit of land, and I'm very lucky. We're back onto a nature reserve, so we have a lot of wild native birds around, and some of them, you just walk outside and it just gives you perspective on the world again, and it's just really, really beautiful. And sometimes I go outside and I meditate and you listen to the birds, and that's all well and fine, and that's great until the sun goes down and all of the cockies come out. And
Yeah,
they are deafening out here. They are so loud.
I've actually been on a call with someone overseas and on a walk, and then they heard the cockatoos going off in the background, and I'm used to it because that's what cockatoos are, right? But then she
Mm.
asked me like, "What's that sound in the background?" And I've had some people from the UK call them pterodactyls, like the flying dinosaurs. And I was like, actually, yeah, they're not the most pleasant sounding birds. They're not a very, sonorous and songbird kind of lovely tweet. It is a bit of a screech. So I feel you on that one.
Yeah. They're
Okay.
iconic, but sometimes I'm just like, let's just, bring the noise down on that one.
Well, they can be incredibly destructive as well. Is the other thing when they're bored.
Yes.
I've seen there's one that was down the road the other day, ripped open my neighbor's garbage can and just started ripping all the stuff out and dropping it on the street for no reason. But that's what they do.
No.
It's a quintessential Australian bird. Number 7. If you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
Ooh, one superpower. Um, can I say the ability to regulate my dopamine receptors in my brain?
That would be a unique response. I've never had that one, but it would be actually incredibly powerful.
Because you know what? Sometimes I think if if I was neurotypical, the world just wouldn't stand a chance.
The world might not stand a chance as it is, Mikaela. Um,
At least that's what I
what
tell myself anyway.
what would you call yourself if you're going to be a superpower who can regulate her own dopamine? You need a superhero name.
Well, nickname would be just like dope. Like she's so dope. No, I don't know, but hey, this could be like a really cool ADHD children's book of some sort,
Yep,
I'm gonna stick a pin in that one.
I was getting comic book vibes. A
Yeah.
superhero comic about some. Yeah, that could be interesting. Actually, I'll have to think about that one. Number 8. What job other than your own would you most like to attempt?
Ooh. Oh, something like a news reporter or a presenter or something like that.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd love to
Uh,
give that a go.
I'm just worried when you get too excited, you're going to move your head forwards and you're going to bang your head on the corner of that range hood
Yeah.
again. I just watch you like, oh, she almost knocked herself out. That would be hard to
It wouldn't
explain.
be
An
the first
intermission.
time.
Number 9. What job would you definitely not like to attempt?
Um, as a child, I used to want to be either a nurse or a veterinarian or something like that. But I actually think that being a veterinarian would be just way too hard
Hmm,
emotionally.
yeah, it's
Mm,
not an easy job at all. You spend a lot of your time.
no.
Yeah. Okay. Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Ooh. Here's your crown case. We saved a spot for you to put your crowns on display.
It's going to take up quite a lot of
Oh.
space in your case.
No, probably just something along the lines of here's your highlight reel. Here's some popcorn. Sit back and relax.
Yeah.
We won't
Are
play
you a
the
popcorn?
bloopers.
The bloopers are the best. Oh, no, hang on. I remember I made an Instagram reel about your last. What? What? There was some word in our last interview that you kept saying again and again and again, and you dared me to make a reel counting how many times you used a word, but now I can't remember the word. Was it I think it was honestly. You kept saying the word honestly.
And I still do. I can't get it out of my vocabulary.
You haven't said it once this interview. What's happened there? You've gone from saying
Yes,
it like
I
20 times,
have.
and I don't think you have. Definitely not that many times. That should be your favorite word, honestly, not fruition. Should be honestly.
True, actually, yeah. I did sort of try to reel that in back when I was in real estate, because a real estate agent that has to keep saying honestly, you're
means
probably
you-
not going to trust.
Yeah. If the first words out of your mouth are "I'm honest," honestly,
Yeah.
it doesn't. It's
No,
probably
you're
not.
not.
Yeah, if you have to say it, then obviously you're not. You're not it.
Probably not.
Anyway, Mikaela, let's leave it there before you break the internet again. Thank you so much for coming on, and best of luck.
Thank you so much for having me on again, Adrian, and thank you for bearing with me with my technical difficulties there. It was really lovely to chat, and hopefully we can very soon again.
Absolutely. Well, I'll be cheering for you, whether I'm over there or not. If I'm over there, definitely say hi. If not, I'll be cheering for you from here. Let me ask you a really difficult question before I let you go. List 3 ways in which Sydney is better than Melbourne. It's okay. You don't have to answer that.
All right. You have the Sydney Harbour Bridge and you have the Sydney Opera House.
Give me one other way.
You know what? You've got some of my favourite people living there. Like, didn't Alicia just move there?
Yeah, but she's from Perth. Come on, she was from Adelaide and Perth. She's an import.
In Sydney now.
She's an import. I loved your reaction when I asked. Okay, never ask a Melburnian how Sydney is better, even though, as I said, we took the vote for the most livable city. So there you go. But there's the eye roll. I'll let you go. Thank you so much for coming on, and thanks everyone for watching. And we will speak to you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Sorority Access is now open. So if you'd like to join an amazing group of women and learn how to be the most powerful, confident, and impactful queen possible, head to thepageantsorority.com. I'll see you there and see you in the next video.